anxiety is just not knowing the answer to a question you have. So you're living in that state of, I don't know the answer. So you're kind of going over it.
This is the Home of Healthspan podcast, where we profile health and wellness role models, sharing their stories and the tools, practices, and routines they use to live a lively life. Laura, it is great to see you. Thank you for being on the show today.
Thanks so much for having me, Andrew. Really appreciate it.
I had the opportunity to meet your husband, but realized we both grew up swimming in Florida. I went to Bowles and swam at Bowles in high school.
Okay, so you're pretty full on then. That's a tough school to be swimming at a young age, let's say.
Yeah, well, fortunately, I didn't transfer there till second half of my junior year. So I was there for a year and a half. I was captain of the team my senior year. It was intense, but I absolutely loved it. I mean, you being a NCAA champion in college, swimming at SMU, I mean, I'd be curious your take. It is very intense, but the rewards of being on a team like that.
Absolutely. No, I actually really loved swimming. For some reason, maybe it was the discipline and the absoluteness of being on the clock and then the camaraderie amongst, it's really weird how social swimming is for always having your head in the water. I tell people that, they're like, how does that even work out for you? But I absolutely love swimming in college even. And for me, I started swimming a little bit later. I grew up more running, and then I got into swimming a little bit more serious at 12 years old, which sounds ridiculous, but most kids grow up swimming around 8 and they're full on pretty much starting even 5, And so I think that gave me a little more span in my swimming career, but there was a lot of people that I swam with, even in college, that had gone through Bowles or had really intensive high school swimming, whereas mine, I spent most of the time with a coach that was completely old school. We weren't too intense. And so I think it gave me a little more life into college, because even when I went to college, the people that were in front of me that were on the swim team and a little bit older that then went to college and then came back and were talking about it, they rarely made it through the 4 years. That's why I chose to swim instead of run in college, because I was a better runner coming out of high school. But I thought, well, I only have 4 years to see what I could do with swimming. Yeah. And so I thought, if I make 4 years, nobody else is making 4 years. Right. And so, and the intensity, once you get, like when I got to the college level, I made senior nationals in my first dual meet. Like that's the level it jumped me up, Yeah. So I understand what you're saying when you said you loved it at Bowles. And so you got there a little bit sooner than I did, as far as that level of intensity and interest in taking it to the next level.
Yeah, maybe 14 months, right? Like it was, because I started year round around 13. So got to it a little later. And I think similar to that longevity point too, I had a friend in high school that was a gold medalist when she was 15 at the Atlanta Olympics. Exactly. And the college career was much tougher. And now she's back and she's a swim coach and she loves it and everything. Yeah. But the burnout when you're that intense, that young, it's very different. And love to talk about the longevity, because you talked about the trajectory almost, because you had the running and then you got in the swimming. And then let's talk about that post-college career where two-time Olympian, multi-world champion medalist, like you had real longevity to an athletic career. So can you say a little bit more about that?
Yeah. Well, I think too, never having been pushed by anybody but myself, I think I made the decisions on, where I wanted to go each step of the way. And I think, like you said, having the swimming coming where it's not as hard on your body and the damaging way running can do. If I had run in college and, all the stress fractures and injuries that they all go through and everything in a single sport. Whereas having the swimming, yes, I did get a lot of injuries even in triathlon, but I was already well into the and had the balance a little bit more. So my body type changed, from a swimmer. I was like 25 pounds heavier, huge upper body, extra large swim t-shirts, was all that fit, as a swimmer. And so that transition, I think, of going from swimming having a little bit of a running background. Cycling was always hard for me to pick up. I was never comfortable on the bike, but then having that balance, and that's part of what triathlon is the balance of the three sports, I think also helped the longevity in the sport. And then, Greg and I, when we met in 2000, I had only been, I've done triathlon as a junior. So I went to Junior Worlds back in 93 and then went to college. And basically I walked on to SMU and I was offered a scholarship my second, third, and fourth years, but he said, you got to drop triathlon if you're going to do it. Because I came back, I was doing well, came back, I had lost like 10 pounds because of triathlon. And he's like, no, we need to keep you bulked up. We need to keep you strong.
Yeah, you need that strength. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I think I chose the swimming for the next 3 years and dropped triathlon altogether. And then so happened to get picked up again with triathlon after college. But yeah, so I think, that kind of helped keep the balance moving forward,
This actually, I think, brings up a really good point there's no one way to being healthy, right? Like when you're specializing for swimming versus running versus cycling versus, hey, I have to do all three.
Yep.
That body type, how you train, what you do is going to look different. Mm-hmm. And similarly, if we're thinking about, you talked about the balance across the three sports, we think about the balance or equilibrium across our life of what health looks like in these different seasons, at these different stages. I'd be curious, coming out of running to swimming to a prolific career as a professional triathlete, what now as a civilian, say, mother of two, that fitness routine looks like for you. Like, what are your routines there? Yeah,
I almost look at it as I'm starting to finally get more working on trying to get healthier. Like, I feel like, even in the transition into motherhood, I feel like I just like tore myself down because you're so, we jammed it in, and I'm an older mom. So I've taxed my body, probably should have been having kids a lot sooner than now. But I think going into it, even, I don't think I was as healthy as I could have been, kind of rebalancing all of my systems, bring the adrenals down, bring the body cleansing up. I've always been a high protein person, always thinking about rebuilding muscle. Yeah. I tear muscle down pretty quick and rebuild it quick, but I always thought protein was the huge macronutrient I needed. But I've learned so much over this period of time of actually being a mom, because my first child has a little bit of food allergy. So I love this field of natural medicine. So I dove in and been trying to figure it out for her, to stop the itchy nose, stop the itchy throat. And I've come like full circle back to, like herbal natural medicine. So things like that, where I've learned a lot more about myself, things that have popped up through the years and trying to balance out my health. And I'm like, oh, that's always bothered me. And now I know why. And so now I'm actually learning a lot more about everyday health for the everyday person. Right.
So on that, when you're not training for a competition, training for a specific sport, what does that kind of movement routine day to day or week to week look like for you now?
I think specifically for myself, because I think everybody needs to find what works for them. I need to keep muscle mass. I have to do the weights. I got to break down the muscle, not probably every day. And if I was being a little more specific, maybe I would work out hard 3 times a week. Okay. Right now, because I don't own my own time with the kids, I can't go too far on any one thing, because who knows, I'll be woken up in the middle of the night. So I know I'm not going to be recovered, or I'm not eating properly, as well nutritionally as or let's say as balanced as I'd like to be today, because I'm running around after the kids. So for me, it's just kind of doing a little bit of everything. So now I just do stair stepper for 20 minutes, run for 5, just to keep my legs open, in case,
Is that run on a treadmill at home? Do you have like an assault treadmill or?
Well, we just go to the gym. Honestly,
you go to, okay.
We go to a gym, just get it all done there, and then I'm done. So we're basically in and out in an hour, and so really, and then just a little bit of weights, and it's enough to keep me strong, but also feel good every day, but not too tired.
And this is 3 times a week, or you do that every day?
Most days. Okay. So I'm never doing too much. I'm only doing enough to feel good every day, but also keep the body moving and flush it out.
And that's dedicated gym time. I mean, do you have, with the 2 kids, is it time, hey, I get outside, I make sure I'm outside with them for 60, 90 minutes, or we're moving, we're doing something? Yeah.
When they come home, they always want to jump on the trampoline together or go for a walk. Like we'll do that. Or now we're just getting them into golf, and we'll go out, and we have a little bit of grass in the backyard. So we chip little golf balls around, or play tennis in the backyard, like on a net kind of thing. So yeah, we were doing a lot of beach time, like I take the kids to the beach every afternoon after school, but the exposure a lot is high. Sometimes we would find a lot of times the kids would be sick the next day. And I think it's just, if it's too windy, it's really weird. It's really weird. And I read up about that, and it's like, the wind steals your electrons. I'm like, what? That's crazy. Wow. So anyway, and they're like, but hug a tree and you'll get them back. Or whatever. I was like, okay.
Well, I know that's Greg's routine, right? He hugs his tree each morning.
I think I've told him about that. He's like, I hug a tree in the morning. So but we're very much about getting them outside. And it's funny, if you watch the kids, they do it. They come home and they're like, I want to be outside. I want to be out in nature. And it's great. Like, they teach us a lot.
It's one of those things, our body intuitively knew or knows what it wants, but then we get acclimatized to societal norms and we start to lose those signals. And kids are really helpful in helping us get back to it.
Yeah. And the worst part is that once you've lost them, now you're raising kids and instilling that. And it's like, I constantly remind myself, just listen to what they're like. My 2-year-old son, well, he's not 2 now, but when he was 2, he woke up with a fever. And I actually asked him, what do you want to eat? And he said, a pear. And I was like, I'm not going to give you a pear. And then I did, and it broke his fever. And I was like, are you serious? Did he just treat himself?
Yeah.
So, I mean, honestly, I try really hard to do that. I've pushed protein on my kids tons, and I'm like, maybe it's been too much, but they're strong, healthy, and happy kids, but a little too much of things can be,
That's a good lesson for me, because I definitely try to push protein on my daughter. I'm like, look, you can't just do white carbs. We need some nutrients, and we need some protein in here.
Exactly. For balance, because they're hormone, or the balanced energy levels. That's why we're always like, no, because otherwise you'll go crazy. And so we've been doing a lot more fruit, and they do pretty well on that. So I don't know that I don't think Sydney had that much fruit until she was 3, because I always thought, oh no, she'll be like this and then like that.
Well, fruit versus fruit juice too, right? Because you're getting all the fiber with the fruit, so you're not getting that same kind of glucose spike. Do you do any kind of team sports or group collective? I think you and Greg play some tennis.
Yeah. So most of my stuff is with Greg if we do anything with anyone else. I've tried a class at the gym, and it's just like, maybe on a day off I could go to another one.
Yeah, it's not your speed, right? Like
I can't.
You're a civilian in name only.
Yes, exactly. I just want to get in and get out. I don't need new sorenesses, not right now. Like I said, I don't own my own time really, and I'm happy here. I'm happy in this state. I've owned my own time for a long time. And I'm happy to be here, but I know my limitations on what I can do every day.
It makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
And so now on nutrition. So I have to imagine when you were a professional athlete, I mean, it's a little bit like a Formula One car, right? You have a team that you're measuring all this, and you're really dialing in, making sure I'm getting enough protein. Now you're saying I eat where I can, and I have kids, and I'm trying to balance it. What does nutrition or those goals, what does that look like for you now?
Yeah. Well, now it's about long-term health for me. Like, for older parents, I want to be here as long as I can for my kids. I want to instill in them what good health looks like and good nutrition. And so we're really big, like we have no sugar in the house except for Greg's chocolate bars, but the kids don't get that. So we don't do
those flavonoids in the cacao.
I know. No, you're right. You're right. And then you read up and they're like, oh, heavy metals are in chocolate. I'm like, okay, I got it.
Get good high quality dark chocolate without the sugar,
You got it. I do appreciate that. And so when if they do get sweets, we try, but you still have to live in a world of birthday parties and not keeping them in a bubble. And So my goal as a mom right now is to just teach them this isn't going to serve you, but it's not to say you can't have it, and when you do have it, this is likely how you're going to feel. And so, or even if they do have some, we'll be like, all right, get out there and jump on that trampoline. You're not bringing that crazy in here, get rid of that crazy energy. So now it's about like, there's a few things after sport and pregnancies and breastfeeding and now lack of sleep, that I've had for so long now, that I'm kind of going, okay, I need to figure out what the root causes of the symptoms that I'm feeling nowadays. And so that's what I've been searching for through, a lot of the natural medicines. And that's where I've come to one herbalist that I kind of go in when I find someone, I'm like, okay, I need to know everything and then I kind of pick and pull what makes sense and what resonates with me and what I can use for myself and my family. And so there's a couple of people recently that I've found that are, not in the mainstream because generally they aren't supported by, government and stuff. And so it's, so really a couple of those has just gotten back to healthy eating in the basic level. Like I said, I'm exploring fruits and raw vegan stuff, but it's really hard for me to come off. I've come off protein down to almost just some pea protein every now and again, which is insane for me.
How many grams are you targeting a day at this stage?
Not much right now. Like, honestly, it would have to come from, like, I'll have I like this Pure Elizabeth cereal or whatever. Okay. It's just like a granola, not no grain granola, gluten-free. So when I need a little bit more substance, but otherwise I'm just doing fruit and then like greens at night, avocado, microgreens, and veggies, green veggies. So really nothing meat-based right now, unless we go out and there's no option.
Well, the pea protein, I mean, do you supplement?
Well, a little bit of that in the cereal sometimes, but maybe like a tablespoon. So it's
not like protein shakes from a vegan protein powder.
Not even right now, because I'm trying to get my kidneys flushed out. I need my kidneys to work better.
Okay.
That's a big part of dysfunction in your lymphatic system. If you're not flushing out your kidneys, then your lymphatic system becomes stagnant, so it can't pull from each cell and grab all the toxins and get rid of it.
How long does that take to do that flush?
Well, I think you can do some quick detoxes, but right now I'm just using the fruits and herbal like tinctures to that target the liver, the kidneys, the adrenals, the endocrine system, all of that, and using those to support my body into self-healing, essentially.
Is this like a 6-week program, 8-week? Like, how long are you looking to do this?
As long as it needs for you, really.
Honestly, so you're monitoring.
Yeah. So basically, I mean, we didn't do any testing before more than just we had blood tests from probably about 6 months ago. So I'm not being religious on it and going, okay, let's everybody blood test. I want to see these markers. It's more off symptom based. So I'm trying to clear out my daughter's food allergies. Yeah. And her lymphatic system we had an iridology read so that, you know how they read your eyes or your tongue. We had her eyes read, and basically your eyes are the human body. So at the top is your brain, at the bottom is kidney and liver. And so what your eyes look like, so they should either be blue or they should be brown. There's only 2 eye colors. So if there's anything else going on in your eyes, it's an indication of something misfunctioning or in your system. So
my green eyes.
Yeah, green eyes, exactly. So the lymphatic system might be a little more stagnant than you want it to be, or your kidneys or your liver. And so I'm going down this road right now because I've tried so many things with all of that. And this actually addresses the root cause. Like the guy that I'm listening to, he talks about doctors treat you. That's what they're supposed to do. He's like, you can bring me all these names. They're irrelevant. You can bring me Crohn's disease. You can bring me cancer. You can bring me diabetes. Irrelevant. I'll tell you the systems that are affected and what's malfunctioning because of how you've lived or how your parents lived and what you've inherited. And then we clean those up through the herbs and the fruit and maybe vegan, depends on who you are. You put your body in the state to help it heal itself. And that's what those two do for you. Your body's the healer.
Yeah. It's an incredibly resilient system. I do a couple 5-day water fasts a year, and talk about cleaning up like any kind of inflammation or niggling injuries. I mean, my HRV doubles during that time. My sleep is so much better. Even on a 1-day fast, my HRV will go up 50%. My resting heart rate will go down 15-20%. Wow. It's amazing what the body can do when we give it the space to do what it's capable
exactly.
of. Yeah.
Exactly. Shut the noise out and just let it be, support it. I know it is.
So I imagine it's personalized to what you have going on and everything, but what are your herbs that your kind of go-to herbs right now?
This guy that I've been listening to is basically, he's just trying to educate you so you could support yourself.
Okay.
He said, you can use my tinctures if you want, or go make your formulations yourself. Yeah. And so I actually buying his stuff because I want to support. He seems like a genuine, honest, and good person, and just trying to help people. So I'm supporting his stuff. But so he has different combinations of, he has one it's called Fabulous 5. It hits 5 different systems. Your adrenals, your kidneys, your lymphatic system, your endocrine system. And then it has 51 herbs in it. Wow. And he said, if you want to just start anywhere, you could go on a grape cleanse. He said, don't even use the herbs, go on a grape cleanse, and that'll clear up a lot of your stuff. Okay. So he's like, but if you put the herbs with it, it'll go quicker. He's like, I don't want to see you back. Like if you ask for my advice, I'm going to tell you so he's like, email me what your problem is. Me and my team will send you back what we think you should do. Yeah. And then it should clear up your system.
What's his name?
Ra Morabe. He's on Instagram. A girlfriend of mine who's also kind of into natural medicine stuff. She's like, you got to check this guy out. If you're into that, check him out. So I've been listening to all of his stuff, and it's really interesting because I've always been looking for the root cause. I've been chasing all these things, and I've tried stuff, taken stuff out, put stuff in, and it's just like little incremental changes. And then a lot of the stuff he was saying kind of resonated with me. And that's why I've kind of jumped on board with him for a little bit. I mean, everybody has to test things out for themselves. We're so complex. It's like he says, the human body will never figure it out. It's so complex, but the way to fix it is simple. And it's not easy. And you doing it. It's like you doing a 5-day fast is not easy, but it's simple.
It's dead simple.
And that's what's really interesting. And so I think for us, like Greg always tells me, because I kind of get excited about stuff. He's like, lean into it, Laura, just lean into it. So I'm leaning into it, and I got all 4 of us on stuff. And like my son, I put him on, he's 4, and I put him on some of the tinctures, and he broke out with like a little, I don't know, like little skin bumps. And they're like, that's part of the detox. It's not, he's detoxing too quickly, and so you just got to push through some of the healing crises that happen. So, if you check out his Instagram, and then his website's mirrorherbals.info, I think, or something. You can have a look at it. I think, like I said, everybody has to kind of test it out for themselves. And we're about 4 weeks into it. So I've been feeling better though, because we were having frozen organic chicken, fingers for lunch, which probably have the canola oil on it, and things that I'd like to do it differently, but it's almost impossible. I mean, he kind of talks about protein. He's like, I'm not telling you to be a fruitarian. I'm not telling you to do any of this stuff. I'm just telling you what it looks like. So when a meat is slaughtered, it is dead. The moment it is dead is the moment it decomposes, and bacteria is going to get there immediately because that's what its job is now that it's dead. And so, it's so crazy. I'm like, I've never thought of any of that like that, So anyway,
it's such a religion too, right? Because you have the carnivores on one end, the vegans on another, totally. The paleos, the ketos, and it's wild.
It's so hard. It's so hard to navigate. Yeah.
And each body is different, right? Like what a body may need at one time is different than another. And so that's really the big idea behind the show, is not to say, hey, here's the one right answer. No. It's profiling people, saying, hey, here are people who were very thoughtful and proactive in their own journey. And we're going to profile and share what they do in case this is relevant to you and something you want to try out and test. Are there any supplements? So on top of the herbs from Mirror Herbals, are there any supplements you make sure that you get on?
Perfect Aminos is one that I'll bring back in once I kind of flesh things out at the very least. Like I was already taking those, but I also had all the other protein just because I don't know. I mean, he talks about getting your aminos from like the fruits and the veggies and stuff. And I'm like, I mean, I've never been like a supportive of vegan. Like most of the time people that are like vegans and stuff, I'm like, they got the gray hair. They don't look that healthy. They're probably so healthy on the inside, but they're just not selling it. Right. So I think it's more of kind of going, let's get our body, cleaned out and see if, just a few of the symptoms that we've been having post athletic career, post pregnancies, things like that. And any allergies, food allergies, things like that. If we can get rid of all of that, clean out that lymphatic system, get those kidneys working, then all of this stuff coming in is filtering through your system quicker and normal. Like you're taking stuff in. Sure, we can't avoid toxins. We can't live in a bubble, but supporting our bodies to get rid of all of that stuff. So really, I've been through so many. I've done personalized nutrients, which is like where you get blood tested, and it's called a NutriEval, and you have your all of your aminos and multivitamins customized to you and what your test results were. Now that's a snapshot of the last 120 days of your blood, right? So, it's always like I've been through so many of these things, and it's pros and cons of it. And so that's one thing I've done in the past. I don't do that anymore. My goal in all of it is to get off of most of the stuff and go to, if it's the herbal stuff, I might support that for a long period of time while we work on different things. But, popping all the supplements, like the multivitamins and things. I mean, minerals is a little different because I think, now with trying to have clean water, you got to put the minerals back in. And I don't know that our food has everything we need. Like it's just not grown to the density of nutrients that it used to be. And so that's where I would support, supplementation. But I mean, I could show you a picture of our cabinetry. It's like got all these supplements, over the course of time that we've done different people's perspectives on how to get healthy. So aminos are one, and I use the Perfect Aminos, like I mentioned to you, Dr. Minkoff. I used those aminos. Dave Scott originally introduced me to those back in 2008, and I used them going into the 2008 games, and I felt fantastic. I mean, I was running a lot back then, and I mean, we were ice bathing a lot, and I was a lot younger. But I do think that their support in the amino acids, maybe not overdoing it, but just enough. Otherwise, right now I'm on the herbal stuff and maybe just some, a little bit of magnesium, vitamin D. If there's things my teeth, might have a little bit of like little receding gums, things like that. So I'm using the herbal stuff to try and rebuild all of that because apparently you can rebuild your teeth. And like if you have a cavity, you can make it go away because calcium is another thing. Like parathyroid can leach calcium from your system. Okay. So if it's not working properly, and that'll be like tooth decay, that'll be varicose veins, that'll be all these different things. So it's learning about all of that is really interesting.
It starts adding up. Yeah.
Yeah, it really resonated with me. I was like, this is all making sense. So I'm going to go down this road for a bit and see what we can do. So
you mentioned the water. And as I understand it, you might have a pretty complex water system at your house. Can you say a little bit more about what you do and what you use?
Right now I've got that HydroVive on our faucet and the shower faucets. So at the very least, we're taking out a lot of the chlorine, and there's a lot, I think, that comes out of that. But we also do I've got the AquaTrue. I've listened to a few podcasts about the guy that's kind of a water specialist. And we do quintons, which is like a remineralization from the plankton bloom of the seawater. So he was one of the guys that I listened to on that. I got onto the quintons, and then he's like, the AquaTrue, which is reverse osmosis, is like one of the best filters, not one that's underneath, because that can harvest or support bacteria. Yeah. So he was helping out like autistic kids and stuff and telling the moms, don't do that one. That creates more drama for your kiddos. He felt the AquaTrue was one that was really, really good one. So that's one that I purchased. And then the Mayu, Mayu, is like a water oxygenating. It spins the water. So it creates more oxygenated water. But the problem with that is you have to remineralize it. So having the quintons or some sort of minerals to bring back.
To top back up. Okay.
But I do think like the herbalist has some minerals that I might try too. I don't know. Or Celtic salt. Like I make the kids, I just put it under their tongue. That's got 70 different minerals or whatever that can help with remineralizing you. And so, that's the two, well, three kind of water things. But I've heard distilled water is the way to go, So I'm like, oh my God, it doesn't end. I'm serious.
I mean, the tough thing on distilled water, I would think, is most of the stuff you're getting are in plastic containers. And then with the microplastics you're getting from distilled.
Exactly. So I think it's more, you have your own distilled. You can get personalized ones, but the upkeep of it is, I was like, I just don't have time for that right now. I can't fit that one in.
All of this can become, each one can be its own job. And
it really is.
I mean, we'll certainly get to kind of the stress management side, but overstressing on this stuff, you're going in the wrong direction on your health. I do want to go back to something you mentioned before about the sleep deprivation, right? This stage of childhood and parenting, sleep is much more difficult. And you had a period of your life where it was very much around optimizing around you.
Yes.
And you could build your life 100% around you and performing. Now you're a family of 4. There are other balances to take in. So what does sleep routine and hygiene look like for you? And have you found any things that work better or worse for you in that?
First things is basically when the kids go to bed, we go to bed. So we don't stay up and watch a show. I mean, we've started, Greg plays a little bit of a game on his phone right before he goes to bed, but I did it a few nights and I was like, actually, it's making me delayed in my sleep, like falling asleep. Okay. Whereas usually I lie on the pillow and I'm out. Like I have no problem falling asleep. But then I'll wake up at, like we go to bed like 7:30, 8. Yeah. And then I'll wake up at 4. And then that's our time for ourselves from, 4 to 6 or whatever until the kids wake up. And the kids have gotten, like I mentioned, some of the things that my daughter I think she was waking up, like she's waking up every night pretty much until I think about 6 months ago when I did a few of another like natural remedy. And all of a sudden she's like, I don't feel like I have to wake up anymore. So I think something was always bothering her. And so my sleep hygiene is working on them and making sure they're in a good place so that they sleep through the night. Now I'm realizing they're only waking up because something's bothering them. And so the more I take care of them and make sure when we go to bed at night, there's no runny noses or sniff. Like I give them a lot of these homeopathic, like Boreon pills. There's quite a few things that have really saved me with these little guys and keeping them on track. So that's part of my sleep hygiene, making sure they're in a good place. And then I don't get woken up as much. And then other than that, I don't do much caffeine. I do probably max maybe 120 a day, and it's just an espresso shot in the morning. Okay. I think we realized this in sport, if you ever had an afternoon coffee, you'd wake up at 2 a.m. Like even if you went to bed at 8 o'clock, you'd still wake up at 2 a.m. I think it just kind of just comes back around on you. So, and if you don't use your caffeine, so if I have a coffee in the morning and don't work out or don't do anything, I often feel like it'll wake me in the middle of the night.
Okay.
So that's another piece that are the big factors for me. Like, that other than that, if I don't get enough food in the day, then it wakes me up at like 3 because I'm starving. I'm like,
You're
all
hungry,
of a sudden, I was like, I forgot to eat more. It's so full on right now with 2 under. Well, it was 2 under 2, but now they're 6 and 4, and there's still a lot.
Still a job.
Yeah, it's still a job. It's still full on.
And for sleeping, I mean, do you target pretty cool?
Yeah, we've gotten the bamboo sheets, air conditions. I mean, it's not crazy, like 74.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's not that cool.
It's not bad. I don't want to get the kids sick. Like it kind of gets really dried out down here in Florida. It's kind of a bummer because you can't have the windows and doors open at night and that kind of thing. That'd be awesome.
Well,
Colorado was like that. Yeah, it was great. So it's basically we're always in air conditioning and that makes it harder. But the bamboo sheets, which I've just recently read are toxic. I'm like, really? Just leave me alone.
I mean, this is a thing, like life is toxic, right?
Yeah,
the
exactly.
sun is a source of energy, but it's also a source of toxicity.
Exactly.
Iron at too high a dose is toxic, but it's also essential in others. So it's all about levels, you know?
No, you're right. And that's what I kind of like about the path I'm on right now, because I'm trying to, if I can get us back to like ground zero from all the inflictions we've done on ourselves through professional sport, through travel, through probably what's called poor diet, you know, with too much animal proteins because they're full of hormones and whatever, preservatives. Just get back to ground zero. Then we can, because I'm all about enjoying life and experiences and having a little bit of everything, kind of having that balance. You know, I don't need the extremes of anything. And so, so that helps. And so, so basically in our bed is, just the bamboo sheets have helped a lot, actually.
Okay. And the mattress is
Prana?
Prana. Okay.
Yeah. Because we went the full latex one from avocado. It was so hot. Oh my gosh. We're like, it's so hot in here. So anyway, and we had like a mattress cover because if the kids come into bed, our son still wears a diaper, a bed league. I was like, and that was really hot too. So we got rid of all that. Now we just take him and sleep in his bed.
Okay. So your bed's set up for this, not ours. This is not the default.
Exactly. We'll come lie in your bed. So that helped. So and we just have I think a bamboo like mattress topper and then the sheets, and that's helped a lot actually.
And so we talked about not over stressing on doing all these things because that stress management, it's one of the core pillars, right? So over analyzing, over optimizing can become its own detriment to our health. Do you have any specific practices or routines or rituals in your day, whether it's journaling or meditation or breath work, that you do to try to get that reset and that hit that equilibrium?
Honestly, when I go to the gym and I do the stair stepper, but I watch a show, and that's the only time that I'm not thinking about someone else, like the kids and what I'm working on with them, or myself and what I need to be working on. And it's crazy, but it's the only way for me to kind of escape is to watch something else without thinking about myself kind of, or whatever, or thinking about life in a way, just escaping into that. It's a bettering myself in a different way, you know, like all the other time in the day, I am constantly, because I do overanalyze and I like to know why things are the way they are. So for me, it's almost more of a curiosity that I've always had. Like when people mention something, I'm like, I wonder why that's the way that is. And then I'll just go down that little rabbit hole. So I'm constantly, and that's what I think I'm so drawn to this guy right now, because he's kind of focusing on the root causes of things. And I'm like, that makes sense. That makes sense. You know, now all these things that have been hanging questions for me are kind of going, okay, that's why it is. And that's how you fix it. And so that relieves anxiety for me. I think Greg and I talk about that all the time, where anxiety is just not knowing the answer to a question you have. So you're living in that state of, I don't know the answer. So you're kind of going over it. So I think one thing with that too is kind of writing stuff down. Like sometimes if I wake up and that 2:00 brain, which is absolutely brutal, I'll just get up at 2 and I'll write stuff down and I'll focus on it for a second. And then I get tired again and I'll go back to sleep till 7. So I'll stay up for an hour, just clear the mind of it, and then go back to sleep. But most of the time that's gotten less. But I think a lot of it is just like you said, like writing it down. But I don't have anything every day that I do. Like Greg's very good about going out and saying his gratitude. Which I love that. And I appreciate that. And I try to do some of that when I'm in that state of not being able to solve my recent like addictions of what I have to fix, you know? And so he's like, you know, trying to fall back asleep at 2 a.m. when you have that brain, he's like, just think of, you know, gratitude and what is working right now. And so I am working on that, because often I'm like, I don't need that. I need to know like how I got to fix this. Like, that's what I need to do, you know? And it's like, when you can't, you're not doing anything at 2 a.m. You're not fixing anything at 2 a.m. So just go back to sleep.
What I love about this is two very successful people who live together, share a life together, but two very different approaches and paths to how you manage it, which is exactly the point of the show of profiling. Hey, they're different paths to get there. And so finding that right one for you. I do want to double click on that, writing stuff down. There's this book, I want to say it was The Organized Mind, that taught me all sorts of things, but one is that writing down. So it said, the brain with working memory, short-term memory, and long-term memory, when we have something that we're thinking about, that we're like, hey, I need to not forget this, it prevents us from putting anything else in the short-term memory because our brain's so worried we're going to forget it that it just pushes it on the front. So it can impact our sleep. It can impact our ability to problem solve. It could be the middle of the workday. And there's something, and just like a computer with RAM versus storage, right? Your working memory, it's just getting eaten up with this thing. But if you physically write it down, it's different than typing, but physically writing it down, transferring that thought to paper with pencil or pen, it cleans that working memory. And it reopens it up to let you go back to sleep, to let you problem solve other things, because your brain now says, oh, it's taken care of. I know I'm not going to forget it because it's captured in this place. And so, without the science, you've gotten there, right? You're like, hey, here's a thing that I've learned really helps me. And I think it's probably a lot like with the herbalism and all these other things of, we're not yet 100% sure why this stuff works, but we're seeing it works, and then we'll do the research. There are these Stoic principles, all these other things are like, oh, it took us 2,000 years, but now with an fMRI, we can see why this practice works because here's what it does in the brain. Like it was always true. We just didn't know why it was true.
Yeah. The people of the past didn't have all this noise out here. They're like, oh, you come to the medicine man and he gives you this herb and you take it and you get better, Yeah. No, that's true. No, I will lean in harder on the writing it down, because I think that is it. I have all these things going, and sometimes I feel so disorganized. Like, like they talk about, have one source of where you write stuff down, whether it be in notes or calendar or whatever, that works. I've got like 10, Evernote, so I'm still trying to figure out, where's my best place but I am back to writing everything down. That's something I think we grew up with at my age, that I can't let it. I learn it so much better writing it down than typing it or just reading it, obviously, off the computer.
One tip I will share that I also got from that book is carrying a stack of note cards. And it's not lists on the note cards. It's one thing per note card. And the nice thing when you have a stack is you can shift them around. So you're like, hey, this is important, but it's not really my top 5. So I'm going to move this behind. And as soon as one's done, you're like, I can toss that. And now I have my new stack. And so it's, And so it's just each idea, each thought, each to-do, whatever is a card. And you can just reorder as you need, throw away as you need. And I find that really
that's
helpful.
really interesting, because I have a list of it, like a notebook list, little boxes next to it.
Yeah. And the problem with the list is, right, like you scratch out and then something else goes above, and it just gets really, really messy. Whereas if you have a shuffleable deck of cards.
Yeah, I like that. That's cool. I remember that.
So I'd like to kind of come back on social connection and purpose before we wrap. And we started this a little bit with that camaraderie of a swim team, of being on a team. And I imagine similarly, when you're a competitive athlete, yes, you are competing against the people you're spending a lot of time with, but there's a community aspect of it too. Definitely. You're spending so much time together. And at this stage of life, it's very different, right? You said, I don't have much time in my day that I'm not thinking about someone else.
Yeah.
And so, you and Greg go to the gym together. You have your tennis together. Are there things that you do to try to deliberately craft and incorporate that social time to make sure that you're getting that on a weekly, on a monthly basis?
Well, I guess nothing specific. I mean, with the kids, like meeting, it's like a whole new group of people now. We have moving down to Florida. None of our friends are down here, so, and then the kids going to school. Now we have to make new friends, at our age, you're like, oh my gosh, do I need more friends? But you have to get a little bit ingrained in this, in the community of those guys. And I've met so many great girls, and, the birthday parties is one time I get to catch up with them, or you make play dates after school with the kids. Yeah. And so for me, that's one of the things that I've gotten better at just trying to reach out to people more and kind of go, oh, let's have a play date or let's get the kids together. And, all the group that I'm with are about, 5 to 10 years younger. So it's hard to kind of be in a group that's probably not your, didn't grow up exactly the same as you did kind of thing. But I've met so many great girls, and the hard part, and Greg always gets me on this, is that what I like to talk about, most people don't like to talk about. So I'm learning. Like, I like to talk about health. I like to how to increase your health, how to, and a lot of people are like, I don't want to work on that. I don't want to talk about that, And so I'm working really hard on, I'm not great at small talk. That's my other problem.
I want to dive in. Kindred spirits, like, in so many things in terms of what drew my daughter's mom mad, right? Like, because it's exactly, I don't get the point of small talk.
It drives me crazy.
What is that doing for us? And health. It was like, this is so core to everything else stems from this.
Exactly. So exactly. That's exactly. I drive Greg nuts with that. He's great. He's like, I'll talk to someone for 5 minutes and then that's all I need to know. So he's really good at small talk, and he's like, I'm not interested anymore. Whereas I'm like, okay, let's figure out what else is going on inside there.
Right. Because I get so curious. Yeah. Right? I'm like, have this whole different perspective on the world. You have all these different experiences. Like, I can't wait to learn from you.
Yes,
and
exactly.
Some people that can feel like prying and digging, and they're like, you're exhausting.
Exactly. So I'm trying to be better at the small talk. And I have some of my girlfriends, I just tell them, I'm like, I'm not great at small talk. If you don't want to talk about nutrition stuff, that's fine. But I do, but I hear people complain about stuff, and I'm like, there's an answer for that. Don't you want to fix it?
Yeah, but not everybody does. Some people just want to whinge.
They don't. They absolutely don't. Greg tells me that all the time. He's like, Laura, I just want you to listen to me. It's like we've got role reversal. So he's like, Laura, I don't want to talk about it. And I'm like, and a lot of people, like, it's so funny. The other night I was with my family for my dad's birthday, and like all the adult family, my brothers and their wives and stuff. And I was telling one of them that I'm always sending like health stuff to my sisters and my brother even, and my sister-in-laws. And they're like, I'm sure it pops up on their phone because I've done it so much. And they're like, unsolicited health issues or unsolicited health information, delete. Delete, like they're so sick of me sending stuff that's relevant to what they've complained about and I'm like, it's okay. I said, I mean, I get it. It's almost like you kind of feel like people that are really, really into religion, and they're like, I gotta tell you about this, and you're like, I can appreciate that side. But no, it probably keeps me from people wanting to hang out with me. But honestly, I feel like at this age, I don't know, if it's a lot about my family. Like, it's a lot about raising the kiddos. I just want to be with them. And then, having the social interaction with girlfriends that have kids. I mean, that's where I think a lot of the moms get support, though. Like, I feel like we know nothing coming into this, and we were really late. We should know more,
And but there's no way to know more. I mean, reading books don't teach it. You're having to do it.
No.
Like, wow. Okay. This is.
Even moms that have young kids don't even know. They're like, I don't remember doing that. I don't know.
It's not simple and it's not easy, right? No, like we talked about things that are simple but not easy. This is not simple or easy.
No, exactly. Yeah. And it's so hard to try and guide. I feel like being in that medium of disciplining a child, but then listening to the child and then guiding them and listening to them, like that medium where you have to be both. That has been the hardest thing for me about parenting, because I feel like you just let them be, but then you're like, but if you don't give them discipline, that's what they want. And how much is enough,
I'd come back on that. I don't know if you've come across Dr. Becky Kennedy with Good Inside.
Okay.
She has a TED Talk. The TED Talk was not my favorite. Her book is phenomenal. Hearing her on podcast, the book is Good Inside. And then she has a online parenting coaching community and subscription service I sign up for. And it's really, really good. I think, I mean, my interactions with my daughter, every time after I read her stuff or after they're just so much better. And so, I highly, highly recommend checking out her stuff. Good Inside.
That's awesome. I might write her down and you know what, honestly, sometimes I feel like you know what to do, but when are you ever really fully functioning as an adult? Like, you're tired, you're hungry, if all of those things were in place, Yeah, we could be super rational with the kiddos. We could be super patient with the kiddos, but then they have to also be in that state for them to kind of absorb it and go, oh yeah, that makes sense, mommy. Yeah, no, I was being a little, overreactive there.
You might just be more enlightened than me. I don't know that I knew. Like even well-rested, well-fed, I'm not sure it was 100% always intuitive to me.
Fair enough.
Okay, what is going on through the 6-year-old or 8-year-old's mind at this stage, all this of I'm processing it from a 42-year-old man's perspective.
Yeah.
It's a totally different world. And so I had a lot to learn. I still have a lot to learn.
No, all of us do. All of us do.
Yeah.
No, I just always try and come back to, okay, they intuitively know like when people say, oh, is it a good baby? Of course it's a good baby. They've come out good. We're the ones that ruined their life. They're going to learn how to survive and, they'll persevere, but we're going to get in the way by, not taking care of them the way we, whatever, missing a few things, but we are resilient. And so that's where it's like, yes, you don't have to beat yourself up.
Yeah, Laura, it was great. Thank you for everything you've shared. It's a journey and, with its own stages. And I just can't thank you enough for everything that you're sharing with our listeners.
Thanks, Andrew. Thanks for having me. It was a great chat. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for joining us on today's episode of the Home of Healthspan podcast. And remember, you can always find the products, practices, and routines mentioned by today's guests, as well as many other Healthspan role models on alively.com. Enjoy a lively day.